Hey everybody, this is Lynn. You're listening to I Take Your Point. Now, if you've been following our latest episode 3, Love, Lies, and Leeches, then you already know we didn't hold back. We got into media smoke screens, messy headlines, and the public figures soaking up attention while the real issues go unchecked. In case you missed it, or if you'd just like to hear it again, here's a clip from that conversation, and we hope you enjoy. Don't forget to comment and add your opinion to the conversation.
But we had a busy week in terms of news this week. One of the things that I was hesitant about talking about, and in full disclosure, the group that I founded some 8 years ago this week, one of the things that we looked at was making certain that we had robust conversations about politics. This group was founded primarily because of everything that had happened with the 2016 election and individuals feeling frustrated about the 2016 election and the results of it, at least the individuals that were in my circle, were sort of frustrated about it, not thinking that Secretary Clinton would lose to the shit show. And obviously she did end up losing. And so it caused a lot of people angst and consternation. And it caused a lot of people to think about whether individuals were lying to them in their circles and whether or not there was this belief that a woman could be POTUS and whether or not individuals were being honest and open about who it is that they were supporting. And so because of that conversation and because of those results, we founded this group. And again, we've been able to grow it to a membership that's almost 6,000 across various platforms. I take that to say we had 2016, 2020, there was a different outcome in terms of the election, but 2024 saw us again sort of come back to a repeat of 2016. And as a woman, what say you about whether or not, when you look at the election of 2016 and 2024, whether or not women are either being honest with themselves about supporting a woman as president, or whether or not there were other factors that came into play?
That's a really good question. And so I looked at that, and I looked at some other elections that were going on, and North Carolina was one of them. So we look at North Carolina and then what happened there with their lieutenant governor.
Yes.
Yeah. And so he was just literally out of control. If you had a definition, a book of out of control, he's like the cover of out of control. And you juxtapose that against what was going on with the current administration and the president, right? And so he's also out of control. This guy in North Carolina they were like, no, thank you. We do not want them. But North Carolina voted for the current president. And so as much as I want to say that it's a female thing, there may be other factors that were in there, female and her race, right? I don't know if the country is ready for a female, which is interesting to me. I've been listening to a few podcasts and especially with some Black males, because I was like, well, why wouldn't they vote for, a Black female? She's accomplished. She's all of the things, especially against this person that we currently have. Like, he has none of those things. And I think that there is some conversations that we need to have collectively in our groups and in our circles about what we think about a female president and what are some of the challenges, what are some of the things that we're concerned about. As women, we also need to have those conversations. It makes me sad a little bit to think about. I remember growing up, we would have conversations about women doctors, women in the military. And it just seems like some of that same sentiment is carrying over in 2025. And it's like, but why? We've seen women be able to lead companies. We've seen women have all of these accomplishments. But for some reason, there seems to be this reluctance to have a woman lead this country.
Yeah, there is some misogyny that goes on in this country. I did not know Senator Harris before 2016, and I was introduced to her by one of the members of the group that I moderate, and that she pointed out to me that she had some unique qualities that would allow her to be successful as POTUS. Tavis Smiley had this, I can't remember the name of the organization or the name of the event that was happening annually in New Orleans, where he would bring in thought leaders, African-American thought leaders from around the country. And I had an opportunity to go back and look at some of the things that she'd said during one of those panels. And I was very impressed with her when I found out that she graduated from the greatest university
Wow.
God created in terms of Howard University, that that even solidified my admiration for her. When you think about all the wonderful accomplishments that this young lady had, and you think about the accomplishments that were not in existence in terms of political on the other side, you think about the accomplishments that Secretary Clinton had, and you think about again the political accomplishments that did not happen on the other side. You think about why it is that the current occupant decided to run was because a black man ridiculed him at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. You think about how it is that in a lot of ways we talk about for black folk how you have to be twice as good to get just a little bit of what you may be you may be qualified to have. And there are individuals who, just by virtue of their skin tone, are going to have things given to them. It is somewhat unfair, but that is the road, and that is the current climate of this particular country. And I sell that as a awkward pivot to what we're seeing with respect to this current administration and the shit show that happened with he and Elon Musk, and this falling out of these two individuals with massive egos. The argument can be made that if one person has a bigger ego than the shit show, it would be Mr. Musk. So, he has a shit ton of government contracts, has been able to amass $1 billion in terms of net worth. And so you have that happening. Individuals who voted for him are obviously being harmed with respect to some of the cuts that Musk and Doge have been able to do to some of these organizations. What say you in terms of what we see going on right now with respect to Musk and the shit show?
I think it's a distraction. I think that Musk did and is doing exactly what he was brought in to do, to distract us, to take us away from what we need to be focused on. It's interesting when you said that we get caught up in this back and forth Twitter war, whatever they're doing, the memes, and we're not looking to see that the Secretary of Education is dismantling things, is taking money away from public schools and diverting it elsewhere, which is going to impact brown and black communities. We're worried more about what's happening in entertainment. And when you said that, it made me think about your initial question about Vice President Harris and with Secretary of State Clinton. We were so concerned about Harris's laugh. We were so concerned about how Hillary's pantsuits. Instead of looking at core issues, we're doing the exact same thing as a country. We're focused on the wrong things. There are things that this is smoke. It's mirrors. You need to focus.
Yeah, I don't buy that, because I think that people can do two things at once.
I do not.
You don't think that individuals can be aware that there are massive cuts that are going on in education, massive spending that's increasing the defense. At the same time, you have the thing that's going on with Musk and Shisha. I don't believe these guys are smart enough to do.
You don't believe they're smart enough. You actually, they may not be smart enough, but they understand the American people, that we collectively will get caught up in the Kim Kardashians of the world. We love it. If you can release something that we're like, oh, what's happening here? And you're saying you can't do two things at once. So just hold on just a second. Let me see. You can't do two things at once. I think that maybe they may not be the smartest, but they understand the American public's attention span, and they understand what we collectively will divert our attention to. And it's the Twitters, it's the little clips of things. We collectively will look at that and not look at the other things. And you say we can do two things at once. Okay, great. Then tell me why we were so concerned about how Vice President Harris was laughing, instead of saying, look at all the things that she's accomplished. This is an accomplished woman.
Well, I with MVP, I think the couple things here. And I want to get back to your point on Musk and the shit show. I think with the vice president, I think the laugh was a Trojan horse.
Just like this is. That's what I'm saying.
She was a black woman. Okay. I just think that white women weren't going to allow this black woman to be the first female POTUS for whatever reason. And you have 55% of white women not voting for her. And then you had the fact that she was married to who she was married to.
Okay.
If you had a lot of black men, maybe 20% of black men decide, okay, we're not going to support her because of
Because of what?
Because of the laugh, or because of the pantsuit, or because she may have incarcerated a cousin of mine who was doing shit that he should have been incarcerated for. There was many reasons.
Those reasons were promoted by our media. They were promoted. Those are the things that were consuming the news cycle. And right now what's consuming our news cycle are memes and tweets going back. Well, who cares about that?
I think people have tuned out to traditional news. I think that traditional news lost a lot of value based on how they did cover 2016, 2020, and 2024. Well, in the conversations that I tend to have with people, a lot of folk don't watch traditional news. They'll get their news from alternative sources. Mm-hmm. It can be from social media. And so from that standpoint, I don't think that individuals are as distracted as you think. I think maybe people are tuned out and not following certain things. Now, if your argument is, and again, me making your argument for you better than you.
Oh gosh, this misogynistic man. You just really love to be on the other side of here's the line. There he is, way over there. Can you hear me?
So if your argument is, okay, Elon Musk in going in, because you have to look at the history of the two people. If you look at Elon's history, he's always been a true believer in climate change. He's always been a true believer in making certain that there's some aspects of government spending that is protective of the environment. Now, on the flip side of that, he's also a massive ass who loves to have those government contracts to help him increase his wealth. So I would say that he got pissed off not because of the pork spending that was in this bill, the big, beautiful bill or whatever it's being called, but because they did not have those mandates that would allow him to make $150 billion in terms of government contracts. I think that was a straw.
That might be.
The camel's back. Now you combine that with the shit show pulling the contract of his friend to not be over the NSA or one of the other divisions, and the other things that were either said or implied with respect to Elon going out the door and ending his stint in terms of the public perception of being involved with the administration. I think there was this build up in terms of the vitriol, or has been this build up in terms of the vitriol between the two that everyone knew was coming, because the shit show can't share the spotlight with anyone for too long. And Elon was sucking up a lot of energy. And so when you think about Doge, it was always Elon is doing this. Elon is doing this. It was never this administration is doing this. And this administration, Elon works for the administration. It's not Elon doing it. It's the administration doing it and hiding behind Elon as he was doing it.
Sure.
And so if your argument, again, to finish making your beautiful point here, if your argument is that Elon was being strategic from the standpoint of saying, okay, I've suffered a tremendous amount of goodwill loss with all these cuts at Doge. The way for me to win, I'm never going to be able to recoup that Tesla buyer who's never going to buy a Tesla now because it's toxic. But what I can do is I can take a torch to this administration and what it is that they're doing, and in the process, maybe win back some of my goodwill. Now, that is your argument. I will concede that has, viability.
That literally was not my argument. However, I take your point.
That's why I said I can make your argument better.
No, you can't make my argument better. You made your own argument, but I agree with elements of your argument. My argument was that this is a distraction and it was strategic. However, if you're saying that, and what I heard you say is that comes down to a loss of revenue and a loss of goodwill, I will 100% get behind you on that. I still believe that this is a strategic attempt to distract the American people from what they're really doing. However, I can also concede that any of these people, Musk, any of them are motivated by their bottom line. I can 100% believe that. So we'll see what happens with it. I still believe it's a distraction because I think that people underestimate this president. The words he uses, everything he does is thoughtful. You may think that it's not. How did he get here again? How did he get here again?
I will say that he's a master manipulator.
Yes.
He's also a world-class grifter. Yes. From the standpoint that, he views this role and he looks at it, I would think, as entertainment, as building up the coffers of, his family.
Sure.
To steal as much money from the United States as they possibly can. So they're leeches, and they think about, what it is that they can get, or take without, and he will say that he is doing it in service of the United States. But when you think about, everything that he has done, from coming down the escalator to announce his presidency to next week where they're going to be having this parade.
I want my money back.
What is that? Upward of probably $50 million.
Ridiculous.
To do a parade.
But he's not the only one. He's not the only one that is self-serving. Not to get too much into my political beliefs, but I think they're all self-serving on both sides of the aisle. It's just the degree of self-servingness. If you can say as much as you want. You made a comment about the climate. So you have a corporate responsibility, social responsibility. I don't care what words you're saying. I care about your action. I don't care about the thought. Forget the thought. If you don't have actions, then don't tell me your thought. Well, I thought about bringing you some flowers. If I don't see the flowers, I don't give it about your thought. Okay? Keep it to yourself. And so if you're going to talk about climate control, what are you doing? Show me. As they said, show me the money. I want to see it. You're not showing me anything. You're just talking to distract and to have sound bites. Last point on this I want to make is about the traditional media. What I heard from you is that traditional media is the media of Dan Rathers. It is not. It has not been that since this president came on the scene. It all became about clicks. It all came about likes. And so if you go to traditional media, it's still going to be talking about these memes, these tweets. It's the same thing. Everybody's getting distracted. I stopped listening to it after 2018. I was like, forget them. When they lost the midterms, I was like, the media gave this to him. So I'm done with them.
Right. So I will take your point with respect to traditional media in some aspects. I think that when I think about traditional media, yes, it is CBS. Yes, it is CNN. Yes, it's the New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal. Those publications that speak to a certain demographics, those publications that for the most part are going to speak the truth to power. Some of them can skew left, some of them can skew right. Some of them will say that they're fair and balanced. I think anytime anyone who knows me knows that I'm a capitalist, knows that I
a capitalist.
But that's okay. I own that. I own the fact that I'm a capitalist. That said, I do believe that there has been an erosion of trust in the media with the corporate ownership of media. So when you have someone like Jeff Bezos who's owning the Washington Post and putting his thumb on the scale to say, we do not want our team to say who it is that we recommend you vote for. So we're going to withhold the endorsement of a person because it could hurt my bottom line with respect to other business that I may have going before this administration. And you saw this parade of billionaires and millionaires from the, Zuckerbergs to the Bezos to Musk, all of them standing behind the shit show.
Right.
And throwing gobs and gobs of money at him just to get his stamp of approval.
Yes.
I think when you have those individuals that control what is now the media landscape, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter, whether it's the Washington Post or the New York Times, I think that's a problem. So platforms like this, where individuals are able to get word out or at least have conversations and have those conversations be either experienced or heard by other individuals, yes, I think is important. And so from that standpoint, we would agree, I think you're agreeing with me and taking my point, that there exists a toxic relationship between the shit show and Musk that you believe is strategic. I believe it's just two individuals who just don't know how to play well with each other.
Yes, Farmer Jones. I think that is an accurate assessment.
Oh, you're so shady. As always, take some time this week to do something nice for yourself and take some time to do something nice for someone else. Until we speak to you next time, talk to you.